More than ever before in human history, there is a common global consciousness of the need to come together to solve the momentous threats to our joint futures. The climate crisis, war, infectious diseases, digital inequality, cybersecurity, economic crises, weapons of mass destruction. Humanity today is facing its greatest challenges. In 2018, the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, an African institute with 30 years' experience transforming conflict on the continent, launched the Global Peace Initiative, a catalyst for collaborative efforts towards generating innovative solutions to these ongoing challenges. We launched a pioneering platform of intergenerational dialogues, where young future leaders engage current leaders on their aspirations for what a better world should look like and how to shape it. In 2021, we achieved our target of hosting 100 intergenerational dialogues in 100 cities around the world.
Canada loves and endorses global peace.
Kazakhstan loves global peace.
Dominican Republic is working for a better world.
We love and endorse global peace.
Australia loves and endorses global peace.
The vision of global peace is to be a catalyst for social compacts between governments, multilateral agencies, the private sector, and civil society. Global peace understands that young people need to be at the center of the conversation, and all of our interventions ensure young people are part of decision-making processes. Peace is more than the absence of war. It's also the absence of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. So global peace is committed to actionable change in creating cooperation, tolerance, and shared values, building inclusive economies, protecting and sustaining our environment, and sharing knowledge for human progress. Global peace, working together for a better world.
Welcome everyone. My name is Ante Petrovic and I'm 18 years old and I'm a youth activist for social policies from Croatia. Today I will be your program coordinator. Throughout the whole January preparing for this event, I was looking for speakers who can bring us different perspective on education. By that, I mean their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and solutions, because that is the only way to make education actually better, by talking, discussing, and making the best solutions. I'm coming from a country located in the Middle Europe. Croatia is also a part of the European Union, and being part of the Croatian educational system for almost 12 years, I can say that I saw so many illogical things. Sometimes I felt like this system is just made to be existed and no one cares about it. And I have been very pessimistic for a long time. Sometimes I've also been lost and wanted to cancel my education and look for the same in a different country or a city. But I decided to stay and speak about my problems in education, not just my problems, but my problem with all the education in Croatia. And it ended up great because I can't change the entire system, not even close to that, but I showed older people in my school, professors and teachers, that young people do care about education. Moreover, they want a better education in my country. Today, we are here to speak about our opinions, ask questions, discuss solutions, and go out and make education better and accessible to everyone, anywhere. In addition to that, I would like to read one quote from someone who is one of the biggest inspirations in my activism, Nelson Mandela. He said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Auntie, for that very short presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to begin our dialogue this very afternoon. And as a program director, I have the singular pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished moderator, who is also another activist from Italy. And over the past years, she's been very active at the United Nations Young Delegates Frontier, contributing very massively to the European Union and the United Nations. And I know you already know her, but I have also the opportunity to introduce her. She is a 24-year-old graduate in political science from Rome in 2020, and currently attends her last year of master's degree program in diplomacy at the University of Milan. Now, before becoming an Italian youth delegate to the UN, she gained experience in an NGO called OCAM, where she did an internship, acquiring her first practice view of the function of the United Nations. Additionally, she became a board member of IMSOI Milano for the second consecutive year. She's also been a youth delegate, and she is completing her internship at the Italian Consulate General in Cordova, Argentina. She's very passionate and knowledgeable, and has acquired years of experience and knowledge at the United Nations level, as well as her advocacy and youth engagement and decision-making processes. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to invite our moderator for this very event, Giulia Tariallo, UN Youth Delegate to the United Nations from Italy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for introducing me and for inviting me, and thank to all of you for attending this wonderful summit on education. As Kobe said before, the annual New Year Education Forum is one of the new programs of global peace designed to explore these major themes of future education. The summit was launched in 2021 during the Global Peace Future Forum by the UN Deputy Secretary-General Amina Mohammed, underscoring that the UN Charter states that we are the people. But we need to define who are we, who are the people. And in this specific moment, we need the young people's energy, commitment, and leadership. And on the need to define the meaning of partnership for young people, Mrs. Mohammed stated that today we have a cohort of young people who have never been better connected. We have leadership now, and we can better define what partnership means. Individually and collectively, we can make the change. So the annual New Year Education Forum will seek to explore all levels the engagement of young leaders with stakeholders in government, private sector, academia, and civil society, and on topical issues that directly impact on the well-being, livelihoods, and the future of youth. The annual New Year Education Forum and the future forums will seek to generate new ideas and innovation for collective action to build solutions to global issues. And I have now the pleasure of introducing our first instrumental performance from Sweden. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. I will now give the floor to our program coordinator, Ante Petrovic, to introduce the keynote speaker. Please, Ante.
It is my honor to introduce our first keynote speaker, Aishwarya Sharma. Can someone please mute themselves?
Okay, so
Aishwarya is recognized as India's first fashion activist and a global gold ambassador with Together Band, United Nations. Aishwarya hosts a following of 200,000 people on her social media platforms, and she is passionate sustainability and climate advocate. Her content focuses on harnessing the power of social and digital media to highlight social injustices in the world today from the lens of fashion primarily. She recently joined hands with COP27 presidency and represented Indian youth and voices at the Global Climate Summit. She is also a goodwill ambassador for Youth of India and mobilizes youth in accelerating climate solutions through green hydrogen. Aishwarya, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. So much for such a warm introduction, Ante. It's amazing to see you being so young and already involved in organizing this event, obviously with the program coordinator and Global Peace. So thank you so much to everyone who's here today. Should I start? Great. So
yes, you can start.
Great. So just how very grateful, firstly, to begin with, I am to be here among such visionaries, young leaders, and easily one of the best cohorts in a very long time. And special thanks to Mr. Kobla Assamani for the program coordinator of Global Peace and someone who has organized this entire thing so well and bringing us all together and closer. Rightly stated that peace is not merely the absence of war, but it is also the absence of poverty, unemployment, inequality, and education. All the data that have been stated already in form of the videos, 244 million children and youth out of school, 771 million adults are illiterate. This also affects girls and women disproportionately. According to a recent report, it is estimated that 15 million girls, mainly those living in poverty, will never set a foot in the classroom compared to 10 million boys. The summit couldn't have come at a better time when just last month, the Taliban banned Afghan women from the university education. Though there have been notable successes between 2000 and 2015, this gender gap narrowed dramatically, however, not enough. In still more than half of the countries in the entire world, there's still a large gender gap when it comes to attendance of the lower secondary school. And thus, despite recognition, universal recognition of the right to education, we still couldn't be further away on its progress and implementation. One thing is clear, none of us can move forward if half of us are held back. And while today we look at the future of that education together, we also have to look at different areas it can be implemented and impacted. Being a fashion activist, one of the many things that I'm trying to accelerate in my country and change is how fashion is perceived and taught in today's world. For not only it is the second most polluting industry in the world right now affecting the planet, but it is also harmful and discriminatory. The awareness of how wasteful fashion cycle can be, how people involved in making of this fashion is pushing more people from underdeveloped countries into poverty that is leaving millions of children and youth and adults behind. One of the key motives of using fashion as a tool for social change is to make readers online and ultimately the consumers aware, so they have access to knowledge can curb some of the industry ills right now, which is waste, hyperconsumption, sizeism, ageism, and racism, all of that combined. For the traditional fashion industry, as we know today, is the most discriminatory industry found in the world. With the global fashion consumption, which includes 3.2 million tons of combusted textiles, contributes from 5 to 10% of the global gas greenhouse emissions, making it one of the biggest challenges our planet is facing today. This has not only generated centralized conversations around sustainability. Many of the solutions to this axis have focused on the production cycle, reducing material waste, and new eco-friendly fabrics. However, this has also led to greenwashing. What I'm saying is that unless we transform the education system in fashion, completely look at a new revised way of how that fashion is taught and managed and looked at, which ultimately reduces our carbon footprint, we are blindly leading this planet to extinction, and yet ironically in the most unfashionable way. No matter what backgrounds we come from, we must make sure now more than ever that we are putting peace and education at the heart of everything that we are doing. Education must be prioritized to accelerate progress on all the sustainable development goals that all of us are representing in our own capacities, being the young leaders of today, against the backdrop of a global recession, growing inequalities, and the ever so increasing climate crisis. Thank you so much for having me here today. The main impact of this for me would be how we can use social media and fashion as a tool for education, and how that education could be reflected in the most sustainable way, which ultimately saves the planet and everything that it has set in order in the reverse. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you very much for your intervention. It was very enlightening. Please, Ante, can you continue introducing our next guest of honor?
Yes. It is my pleasure to introduce the guests of honor for today, Dr. Vasu Ganden. Dr. Vasu is the founder and executive director of the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, which he founded in 1992. In 2018, Dr. Vasu founded Global Peace to mobilize a global constituency to strengthen multilateralism and to build a better world. Over the last 29 years, Dr. Vasu has been involved in preparing conflicting parties across Africa for political negotiations. During this time, he has worked in some of the most protracted and violent conflicts in Africa, including Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Somalia. Dr. Vasu was a Fulbright Scholar at Georgetown University, where he graduated with LLM and is admitted to the High Court of South Africa as an advocate. He has served on several independent commissions in South Africa and serves on the boards of several institutions across the world. Dr. Vasu, the floor is yours.
Ante, thank you very much. And firstly, I'm so happy again to see you. In this, the first event of Global Peace, I have to repeat for all the people, I see we have now 72 people who have signed up, to repeat for all of them that Ante is only 18 years old, and he has joined his peers across the world. Ante was on last year. Of course, Ante, I'm sorry to say your country did not win the World Cup. Because when we met last year, you were still going to be playing in the final of the World Cup. So I'm sure you will win again, because Croatia has come always in the final. But we are very proud of you, and we are very proud of the fact that at a very young age, you have become a very, very serious activist on social issues. And this, I think, gives us confidence that we will see a better world. When we look at the current world that we are facing with the geopolitical tensions that are taking place across the world between the two major alliances, NATO on the one side, Russia, China on the other side, we realize that this is a world that is plagued with problems. We see, apart from the wars and the potential wars that we are experiencing, we also see devastating climate change catastrophes. New Zealand, for example, having unprecedented rains and floods. Here in South Africa, we have had a heat wave. So we can see that across the world, there are many, many challenges with climate change. I see my good friend Mohammed is here, as he has been for almost 2 years, all the time. Mohammed, we want to also sympathize with you and with the people of Pakistan for the devastating bomb that had been set off and resulted in the death of so many people there in that part of the world. But also, we know in your part of the world that you are also plagued with many, many challenges as well, Mohammed. Turkey, the Middle East, when we come to Latin America, we come to the North America, Asia, and Europe, we see that there is rising tension. We see a rise in right-wing tendencies across the world. We see a rise in autocracies across the world. So there are many, many challenges that we are facing. And what this means is that there is a need for very good and very astute leadership as well across the world. So I think that I want to say, firstly, that if I look at myself, and I want to go just a little bit into my own background. My grandfather was a mahot. Now, for those of you who don't know what a mahot is, it's somebody who took care of an elephant. And the elephant was donated to South Africa by India and was taken to a game park. And my grandfather took care of the elephant and gave rides to the children at the game park. He was illiterate. He could not write and read, but he could speak many languages. And that is how he managed to do his daily tasks. Unfortunately, at a very young age, he was killed in a railway crossing, knocked by a train. My father then had to give up school with his brother to go and work. And so my father only managed to complete primary school. But my father then had to work in a shoe factory as a leather worker in a shoe factory, having a primary school education. But he went to night school and he rose in politics in this country. And when he passed on last year, he was given a national order by the president prior to passing on, one of the highest orders of the country. And he was given a state funeral by the president when he passed on. This is somebody with a primary school education who then managed to educate himself. But because he managed to educate himself and somehow liberate his mind, he knew the value of education. And therefore, he also managed to save his money and send me to university, where I studied law and became a lawyer. And today I have a global experience. I have a master's in law from Georgetown University under a Fulbright scholarship, as you have heard. I was awarded the Global Leader of Tomorrow by the World Economic Forum. I've addressed the United Nations Security Council on many, many occasions. And I founded both Accord and Global Peace. I did that because I was given an education. And I want to underscore the importance of education. Without education, without the foundation, we aren't able to excel in society or to make a contribution socially, economically, and politically to our society. And because I was able to educate myself and extricate myself from poverty, because I grew up in a very, very poor household. My father was the only breadwinner in the house, but working in a shoe factory. He didn't earn a lot of money. We were 4 siblings, 2 grandmothers, a mother who was a housewife, and my father. So you can imagine a big family with very little income. And I went to school where I had to walk for 3 kilometers a day to go to school. And I went to school, which was an afternoon school. So we started late at 9 o'clock, and we started our classes under a tree. And then at 12 o'clock, we went into the classroom and the other children went under the tree. So this was a very, very difficult upbringing. But now I am a lawyer. I am admitted to the High Court of our country, and I have had a better education and a better livelihood. And so I have managed to educate my 2 children. My daughter has got a bachelor in business administration. She works for a large retail company here in South Africa as a buyer. And my son graduated from one of our leading universities as a computer engineer. He is currently in Belgium working for Deloitte, the consulting company, as a computer engineer. So you can see that education has allowed us to escape poverty from one generation to the next generation, to the next generation, and now to the 4th generation that is really having the ability to seize all the opportunities that come before them in this world. Education is the great leveler. Without education, you cannot free yourself and you cannot excel in society. So we want everybody, and there are millions of children who are denied basic education today. Even if you are not able to get a university degree, even if you are not able to graduate and to become gainfully employed in a profession, but if you have the basic education, if you are given the grounding of interpretation, of grammar, of mathematics, so that you have the comprehension to comprehend what is put in front of you, you have the skills of mathematics and other skills to give you problem solving. These are the essential life skills that we have today. With artificial intelligence and with where we are technologically, as you know, you can wake up in the morning, as I do in my house, because my son, having been being a computer engineer, he has rigged up the entire house. So I just have to wake up in the morning and say, "Hi, Google, what is the weather today?" And Google will tell me what is the weather. And I can say, "Alexa, play the music, search for this, give me the definition of this." So there is much of our information today that we had to learn and we had to internalize is available to all of you today through artificial intelligence. So what becomes the responsibility of your generation? What becomes the imperative of your generation? Well, the imperative of your generation, the responsibility of your generation is to imbibe those skills. If you go to the World Economic Forum and you look at what are the skills that will be required in 2025, in 2030, that will assist us to change the world. It's leadership. So we need leadership skills. It's entrepreneurship skills, and it's development skills. These are the essential skills. We all need to know how to problem solve, how to negotiate, how to facilitate meetings. This is why today global peace is so important. And this is why we founded Global Peace, to ensure that we can impart these skills of leadership. Today, as Ante, who attended last year as a speaker, is today an organizer. And tomorrow, Ante, with these organizing skills, will become a leader. And in the future, he might be the president of Croatia. But Ante would have had all the necessary skills, apart from his academic skills, apart from the technology-assisted skills that he will get through artificial intelligence and everything else. Here, he is developing leadership skills. I have been a leader my entire life because I was exposed at a very early age to leadership skills. I joined a youth club in my teens. I was already the chairperson of a youth club by the time I was the age of Ante. And I've had all the time a succession of leadership positions that I've held through my entire life. And that is because somebody gave me an opportunity to be the chairman of a very small youth club in my district. So Ante starts here today. And tomorrow Ante becomes the president of Croatia. This is the path to leadership. This is the kind of skills that we need to get to leadership. And in order to be leaders today, we need negotiation skills. We are in a war today across the world in Ukraine because we do not have very, very astute negotiators who know how to avoid war and how to negotiate. We need leaders who know how to problem solve so that the complex problems of climate change and all the other challenges that we face, the pandemic, these are challenges that need problem solving. And so we need leaders who know how to problem solve. We need entrepreneurs in our society. Without we will not have artificial intelligence. We will not have all the tech that we see without entrepreneurs. We will not have electric vehicles. We will not have driverless vehicles. We will not have all of the new discoveries that will come in medical technology that are going to assist us to avoid diseases and to deal with diseases like cancer and many of the other diseases in the world. These are things that have come because of the fact that we have had entrepreneurs who were brave enough to put their skills and their resources and push the envelope into the future and say, what should the world look like? This is what the Futures Forum of Global Peace is all about. So all of you, as we move now into the future, you will be part of the Futures Forum as well. And the Futures Forum will assist you to also utilize not only your basic knowledge, your degrees, whatever you have as basic knowledge, but also the leadership skills that you are developing here, the problem-solving skills that you are developing here, to come together and chart a new path for the future of the world. It is education is the future of the world. I thank you, Ante. Kobla, I thank you again for always doing such a wonderful job of pulling together these webinars and ensuring that we have this great attendance, and also with your team having put together an entire plan for the year. And I can see already we're off to a good start. So Ante, as organizer, you have done a wonderful job. Julia, I can see your moderation skills are developing. And I know that you are going to be doing extremely well in global peace. And Ashwarya, we have been really intrigued by what you have been able to achieve thus far and the speech that you have given us. I'm looking forward to listening to all of you and to being educated by all of you in the next 1.5 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vasu, for sharing with us your experience and your thoughts. They will surely inspire us, especially when you say that education is the key to escape poverty, and without education, we cannot free ourselves. Thank you again. It is now time for another musical performance from Portugal. Please, Kobe, share your screen. Thank you very much. I have now the pleasure to introduce our first speakers for the first group. Mrs. Kemini Ingyan, founder of Pan-African Female Youth Leaders, known for the exemplary leadership at all centers. I have the honor to leave the floor to her. Please.
You have to unmute yourself.
You haven't heard me? Okay. Miss, we cannot hear you properly.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, better. Thank you.
Okay, please pardon my voice, please. Okay, I'm a Keminian, a social activist and humanitarian from Nigeria. I'll be speaking on the topic of the future of education in Africa, seeking solutions today for tomorrow's world. Seeking solutions for the future of education in Africa is everyone's needs. And as such, requires a collective effort of all and sundry. Africa's future depends on children's foundational learning today, and it's as a result of this that there is a need for large-scale support to enable the education system to recover. Unfortunately, 80% of children aged 10 years old in Africa find it difficult to read a simple sentence. While this is so discouraging, one cannot shy away from its embarrassing effect on not only the continent, but also on the leaders and people in general. Africa and Africans need quality teachers to support education recovery. But the question remains, where are they going to come from? Undoubtedly, teachers are going to be at the heart of any recovery or transformation of the continent's education system. And the earlier we understand this, the quicker we prioritize the support for teachers and our education system as a critical area of investment that will facilitate our development and growth. Also, we need to ensure that
Excuse me.
Okay. This commiserate with the critical role teachers play in not only communities but also in the future of our children. Countries should set up innovative programs for teachers to upgrade their skill set. We need strong and more comprehensive pre-service, support and service training to encourage the youth to enter the teaching profession. Lack of proper facilities and education. Another reason for low education rate in Africa is the lack of proper schooling facilities and unequal opportunities for education. Across different countries of the globe, many schools across Africa find it hard to employ teachers due to the low pay and qualification inadequacy. This is particularly true for schools in remote areas. Most pupils, students who manage to receive education prefer to move to big cities or even overseas where they will be exposed to quality education. Better jobs opportunity and standard of living. This partly explains why we have overly large class size and high average number of students per teacher in a school. Moreover, the teachers who are left here are usually those unqualified with few teaching aids and or instrumental or material. As a result of this, children attending school in rural areas usually make poorer results in standardizing tests compared to their counterparts who reside in urban areas. With education being a major concern towards achieving a good career and establishing a future, Africans need to be aware that equal education needs to be established within all schools throughout the country. Although quality of education and number of well-equipped schools and teachers has steadily increased with the emergence of colonialism, it should not be forgotten that inequalities and still exist in our educational system based on region, economic status, and gender. Behind the regional average, there are still enormous disparity between countries, and even between the different zones and regions within countries, which means that it is not possible to identify conditions that apply uniformly to education across different countries of sub-Saharan Africa. While some countries have lower demographic growth, others enjoy a major satisfactory level of school enrollment. Only a few countries are fairly seriously behind in education at the same time as having to address a steady growth in the school-age population. In addition to the lack of qualified teachers, there is also the problem of extra large classes in public schools. In Nigeria, there are schools with a teacher-to-pupil ratio of 80. This makes it difficult for personalized instruction. There is also lack of culturally relevant teaching learning aids for teachers. And students, as a result of this, the students are being deprived of quality education. Let us not forget yet the marginalized children, particularly those living in the poor areas or those from poor countries. boys, girls, children with disabilities, and those living in remote locations have less access to remote learning opportunities than the more advantaged students during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. How can we help such children to catch up? Collectively, governments, donors, the United Nations, and other partners need to invest sufficiently in recovering education system post-pandemic so that all children can catch up, return to their classrooms, and be successful. There is a need for large-scale support to enable education system to recover. This should be done in the way that can transform education. Disparity in education. Whatever the underlying reason or reasons are about having large numbers of girls outside the formal schooling system brings developmental challenges to both current and future generations. Of all regions, Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest rate of education exclusion. This is really unfortunate and should be disallowed. Over 1/5 of children between the ages of about 6 and 11 are out of school, followed by 1/3 of youth between the ages of 12 and 14. Furthermore, data shows that almost 60% of youth between the ages of about 15 and 17 are out of school. Without urgent action, the situation will likely get worse as the region faces a rising demand for education due to still growing school-age population. The foremost factor limiting the female education is poverty. Poverty plays a key role when it comes to coping with direct costs such as tuition fees, cost of textbook, uniform, transportation, and other expenses. Whenever, especially in female or in family children, these costs exceed the income of the family. Girls are the first to be denied schooling. This gender-biased decision in sending females to school is also based on gender roles detected by culture. In conclusion, it is important to note that education is a powerful driver of development as well as one of the strongest instruments for reducing poverty and improving health, gender equality, peace, and stability across the globe. As such, the world should join hands together in assisting and revamping Africa's education system so that it will be functional and accessible for every child. Remember, education is a right to every child, not a privilege. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you, Ekemini. Thank you for your words and insights, especially recalling the importance of having more opportunities for youth and young women with a focus on education. Our next speaker is Mila Antonovic, youth advocate for mental health at UNICEF and student at Queen Mary University in London. Please, Mila, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. That's true. I'm Mila. I'm originally from Serbia and I'm only 19 years old. And I'm very happy to be here to talk about education and what I'm really passionate about, but also to connect it to mental health and how really health overall, but mental health specifically, is very important to us. So I will give you a short introduction. Who am I and what I do, and why do I think it's great to have this talk? So I started my activism more into politics and mental health, and I worked with UNICEF since I was, so it was 2017 where I would be like 15 at the time. So since that day, we work closely together in representing young people in Serbia, in young people in the education system, and we did loads and loads of projects, but one specifically. In 2021, we started a project within Serbia and within the Serbian offices on mental health and well-being. And to this day, we've developed a website called Everything is Okay, but in Serbian, where everyone, I mean everyone, young people, elderly people, or people who go between the two can go in and see many of the articles and seek help if needed. Because why is that important? So I know my grandparents were used to say, oh, in my days when I was young, we didn't have such thing as depression. We didn't have such thing as anxiety. But did they? I'm sure they did, but they didn't really know what it was. Fight or flight mode in our system, in our biological system, was there before we even knew it, before we even knew what it was. But how did anxiety come from that? That's science, and I'm not going to talk about it because we use education for that. And without education, old people like my grandparents don't know what it is. They don't know how I feel certain times. They don't know what happens to my system when I'm in metro and when it stops and when the light shuts, how I feel about that, and how many other people feel in certain situations, whether they go out or whether they have an exam and their hand starts sweating, their heart starts beating faster. They don't know that, but I'm sure they felt the same. So education is super important for us. So we know how we feel, but not only, oh, I'm okay, or you look fine, so you must be okay. With education, and with both formal and informal education, we learn about the things that many people didn't know about before. So UNICEF did develop those things within the website, and they try to focus on certain schools within our capital city in Belgrade and many more in smaller villages, so they could be more representative, right? So about mid-2021, UNICEF Serbia reached out to me and they said, hey, listen, there is a big project in UNICEF in Central Asia and Europe that we really want you to go and put input from Serbia schools, from Serbian health system into the project. So UNICEF in Europe and Central Asia actually developed 10 strategic plans for dealing with mental health within education. I'm sorry for my little one. So what did we do is that we actually put 10 countries together and 10 young people to develop for those strategic planning. So what we did is that how can we improve the mental health within education? The first one was actually seek for help and ask for help. Even though I feel scared when I talk or give talks sometimes, even though I did it millions of times, before every talk, I did talk to other people. Sometimes I went to psychologists before I really went over the step of feeling scared to talk. I was scared to talk within the classroom. I was scared to speak up when I was younger because I thought other people might judge. So that might be a problem later, but stopping it in early age, like I did, helped me quite a lot. The second thing is understanding. And some people might talk about, certain diseases or something else. And to somebody who doesn't really understand that, like, what is that? I don't know. But with understanding, we need education. We need to educate our children for it. We need to put more into our educational system, and not just in Serbia, but everywhere in the world. Right now, I study in London, here in the UK at Queen Mary University, where mental health support is really, really important, and that we can really find it anywhere. I can come and talk to my teacher. I can come to talk to my lecturer. I can come and talk to specific advisors, or I can even talk to my peers who are educated on that. So there are certain points in time where you can sign up and talk about how your mental well-being is impacting your education, or how your education impacts your mental health well-being. So open talk is something that is third on the list, where we have to allow ourselves to freely talk about how we feel, or how we feel about our education, or how we feel when we are within education. We have to stop every form of abuse, every form of discrimination, whether it's gender, whether it's class inequalities, or so on. So what our teachers doing right now in the UK is they're striking because many of teachers who are from minority groups, they are paid less than women, are paid less than men, and so forth. So what they do is they strike, and they have to strike, but we want to strike for better education. So we do it together. We strike with them so they get better pays, better equality and everything. So we get better education. With that, we have to stand with students, and we have to stand with teachers who might also suffer with some mental health issues, whether it's something at home, whether it's their parents, their children, or whether it's us as well. Us students have so many things on our back. We have to do this, do that, be on time, listen to this, listen to that, and everything. And I'm sure that many people who work understand that you have to do this, you have to do that. Oh, the deadline, oh, my boss, oh, my coworkers. It's sometimes quite a lot. And everyone can relate, I think, not just students, not just young people, but everyone. So what do we have to do is listen to each other, talk openly, and understand how we feel. We have to be empathetic, because that's something we might lack these days because of the technology, which is amazing, but also has those things that makes us more distant to one another. With that, I'm not gonna talk a bit more about it, but maybe if anyone who really wants to get into mental health within education could do that through their UNICEF within their country, or any other organization that does really focus on that specifically. And you can also develop some strategic planning that you can help each school or particular school, or everything overall, work with government to implement those things, make a policy on that, and make a cruel change. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk here today.
Thank you very much, Mila, and thank you for calling the importance of mental health and well-being. And education is certainly the key to let everyone acknowledge the importance of having a better relationship with ourselves and a sane mental health. We continue with Yanis Ibrahim. He is a development advocate and consultant with over 5 years of experience in nonprofit management industry, and program coordinator at the Nigeria Youth SDGs Network. I have the pleasure of leaving the floor to him. Please.
I'm sure he's not online, or his network has dropped. We can go to the next one and come back to him when he's online.
Of course. So we shift to Yev Finner from Canada. She's our next guest. She's a therapist and podcaster on a mission to change the educational conversation. I will leave the floor to her.
Hello, everyone. Hi, just organize my... Do you hear me?
Loud
do you
and
see
clear.
me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so it's really nice to be here and listen to everyone from Africa, you know, and all over the world. And the education here is a little bit different situation. I'll speak from the Canadian aspect, and if there is questions later, I would love to answer. So about 4 years ago, it was the first time I talked to a conservative person about the climate crisis. He wrote an open letter to the local newspaper, and I wrote him an email back. My hands were shaking as I clicked the send. But I really wanted to understand what's the escalating conflict around forest in Canada looks like from his point of view. And he agreed to meet with me. So I want you to understand something. This guy's job is to help logging companies make more money. He's their advocate. That's what he does for a living. That's what he's good at. I live in British Columbia, Canada, the most beautiful place, maybe one of the most beautiful places in the world. And logging companies here are cutting down 1,000-year-old trees that are part of a unique ecosystem that developed for thousands of years, destroying grizzly bears' habitat and the ancestral land of indigenous peoples. And recently, they get closer and closer to the cities and watersheds and our water supply. And this guy is helping them to do that better. Now, I moved to Canada from Israel 6 years ago to live in this beautiful and amazing nature. There is less and less nature in Israel, and I wanted to live in the nature. And I think this is maybe one of the last places in the world when you can still drink clean water straight from the lake. That's special here. And I really couldn't understand how they can be so cruel and ignorant in the name of profit. I get to the coffee shop, I get myself a creamy almond milk chai latte, and he's already sitting there with his Trucker Dark Bitter Drip coffee. But the conversation is actually very pleasant and effortless. And even though we have different opinions, and we might come from different backgrounds, and we might see the global challenges differently, I realized that he's really a nice guy who loves nature, not less than I do. And he has some smart things to say too. We talked for about 2 whole hours, and I understood something really important that day. They are not the enemy. They have different perspective. And I want to give you 3 examples, what we say and what they hear, that aggravating the conflict and preventing the effective dialogue. When we save the forest, they hear factories being closed and people losing their jobs. When we say we have to stop cutting down old growth forest, they hear a big blow to the Canadian economy, which relies in part on selling this specific, special type of wood. When we say we'll all go extinct if we don't stop climate change, he tells me that we might die much quicker if the global economy collapses. And in the last one, he might be right. This debate between ecology and economy is at the core of the conflict between people who support climate action and the people who oppose it. And we can't solve any of those problems if we won't work together, because economy depends on our ability to survive, and our abilities to survive depend on our ability to make a living. So economy and ecology are actually intertwined and connected and not separated. After this conversation 4 years ago, I realized that many people around me have conservative perspective. And I mean, my husband, my mom, my next door neighbor, I never talked to any of them about climate. I was afraid to hear their opinion about it. I was afraid to hear they don't care. I was afraid to get mad at them and never want to speak with them again. And yet, we must overcome this fear of having those uncomfortable conversations. We must talk to these people. They are the key to change. We have to bring them on board on us on climate issue. Almost 50% of the world still refuses to acknowledge the urgency of the climate crisis. Almost 50% of the world still vote for economy and discard ecology. And almost everyone chooses one and not both. So if we really want to make a difference, the job one for the climate movement is to bring these people on board. Because if we only talk to the people who are already convinced, nothing will change. The same action will lead to the same results. And I don't like the results. So maybe one more thing, if I have time, I would like you to take a pen and a note and have a list of all the people that are pro-industry or conservative, or the way you call them in Africa or in your country, people that you never talk to them about the climate crisis. So write yourself their name. just to make things a little bit more practical, you know, and look at this list. And usually there is some resistance and fear and doubt. Should I talk to them? What should I say? What does it matter? But those are the people that if they change their mind and if you build a connection with them, it will make a difference. So if you have any questions of how to start those conversations, please reach out on Twitter. I would love to help for free. My DM is open and I would love to have more connections across the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for bringing here your insights on economic and ecology, and especially for talking about the climate crisis, which is fundamental to acknowledge what is going on around us and to finally understand what could be the solutions. I will now call again for Yunus Ibrahim, if he's here with us. Please, Hannes, the floor is yours.
I think that he's here, Yunus Ibrahim, but...
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm joining from Azerbaijan. So sorry, my internet has been really shitty. I'm sorry. Excited to join you this evening on this very important August program that targets the global peace and education, future of education. My name is Yunus Ibrahim. I'm a development advocate. I'm from Nigeria. Currently, I'm living in Baku, Azerbaijan, in the Caucasus region. I'm a junior fellow of the World Academy of Art and Science, and I'm a young leader of the Nizami Ganjavi International Center here in Baku, Azerbaijan. I've been here listening to amazing insights, speeches, and comments from colleagues and some of our elders, like Mr. Basu. Amazing man. Thank you so much for your speech. So when we talk about the future of education, when we talk about, especially let's look at peace, because I really want to focus on education and peace. I think our education system is failing. In February 2021, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the whole world went to standstill. We all go back to our phones, trying to connect with the media to know what exactly is happening in the region. I'm not from Ukraine. At that point, I was even living in Nigeria. But every now and then, I go to check the updates, what's happening, because we're all tensed. We're scared that is it going to be the eruption of World War III or not? I think if we in the 21st century will really specify our knowledge base or our education system to be channeling towards contemporary issues and not really promoting such, just theoretical knowledge without practicality in real life, we're going to have our challenges. We talk about climate change. We look at the issue of sustainable cities, we look at water, we look at a lot of SDGs, generally the 17 goals or the 16 goals plus partnership are enough, of course, in our institutions. Should be, for me, I've always said this, that this should be more like a syllabus that should cover some educational sector in our education system. So what am I proposing? Today, the world is more global than ever. We are more connected than ever, but at the same time more divided. We have the internet. Imagine I'm sitting here, it's 7:25 p.m. in my part of the world. Ate is in Croatia. I think one of our organizers in South Africa, most of our organizers, we're joining from all corners of the world, connected. But then at the same time, we're divided. more than ever, I think we should try to see how our education systems will incorporate more logical knowledge that will more thinking rather than just theoretical and abstract knowledge. And I'm really, really excited, especially when the launch of the Global Partnership for Education happened. I mean, the world, there's a gap, especially when we talk about the poorer countries in the developing world, the global south and the global north. We are not equal. We all know that the world is not an equal place. The UN is trying to bridge the equality gap by promoting the SDG that talks about reducing inequality. But when we pick the goal number 10 alone, and we look at the whole of the SDGs, we want to reduce inequality in terms of what? In terms of food, agriculture. Is it in terms of climate, where the richer countries want to need the carbons and other people are being told not to? We need to go back to a fair table and start having honest conversations. Enough of the talking. We need to start doing this practically. 2030 will be the deadline for the Agenda 2030, which is the UN goals that was set up in 2015. 2015 was like yesterday when leaders met in Rio in 2012 in Rio de Janeiro. We thought 2030 is a long time, but imagine we wake up and we're already in 2023. Before we wake up again, we're going to see ourselves 2027. How have we progressed with the development of these schools, from the education to peace to climate? Are we progressing? I think we need to start connecting the dots as we progress, looking backwards, just as Albert Einstein mentioned. So, young people, what are we doing? We have been witnessing all these wars all around the corner, from how the Taliban, disrupted Afghanistan, or should I say take the power in Afghanistan and tormenting women, stopping them from going to schools and all that. With what's happening in Iran, when we look at what is happening in the whole of the Middle East and other parts of Africa. So young people, we need to start promoting a different worldview, a different perspective from what has been, the basics of the world. So as we are progressing, we need to be measuring our progress as we are moving forward. Okay, in 2022, what happened? What has changed? Or are we going to still move from Egypt and go to Dubai 2023 and have the COP and speak a lot of grammars, and from Dubai move to another country? We are tired of all this. We need to be honest with ourselves. Measure the progress in education. And this I want to employ, especially the institution, from the global peace institutions to education institutions. Try to see how you can work with the brain powers that you have, the young people. Keep them busy, give them opportunities. Let them be the analysts and specialists in your foundations, in your institutions. Let them measure the progress as we're moving forward. Because if we do not cop this once and for all, nobody is going to help us do it. And by the end of the day, we'll start throwing blame games, just like we're blaming the older generations. Our generations, our kids will grow up in the next 30, 35 years and say, your generation have failed us. So we need to start measuring our progress. And I do hope that forums like this will continue to, happen. These are important conversations going on. And I look forward to joining, consistent events and programs from the Global Peace, from our organization, to see how we can contribute. We are all serial volunteers in our own respective ways. So we are open for volunteering, we are open for internships, any part of the world, so long as we are eligible to travel, to come in, we're looking forward to promoting. So Ante, as I told you, I hope to see you maybe next year in Croatia, and I do hope to visit all of you, maybe once in one of your countries. Let's keep in touch and let's keep the conversation going. And most importantly, act, take responsibility. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing with us your ideas and proposals. I agree that we have to start to find practical solutions, and certainly being here has been practically hard to find one. Now I have the pleasure of presenting our last speakers for the first group, Claire She is the founder of Sustainability at School, which helps schools reduce their carbon footprints and boost education for sustainability. Please, Claire, the floor is yours.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thumbs up. I wanted to try and share screens. If it doesn't work, then I won't, but I did prepare
No, it works. Let me give you access.
Okay, fabulous.
Go, you go.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah, it's here. Good.
Fabulous. Okay, so really a pleasure to be here with all of you this afternoon, and it's really interesting as well to have the inputs from Yael and Mila in particular, talking about anxiety issues in educational settings, but also climate issues, because what I wanted to talk about today kind of brings those two things together. So thank you, Julia, for your introduction. The company that I run is called Sustainability at School, and really it's been set up to help schools to reduce their carbon footprint and to boost education for sustainability, which under a lot of plans being led by UNESCO and all sorts of other UN agencies, looking at one of these key pillars around environmental education and really trying to integrate sustainability within the curriculum moving forward. I can see that this is the way that we are going to be going in the future. But why am I focusing on schools in particular? I mean, really, again, linking to some of the stuff that Mila was picking up on. There was a global study undertaken about 1.5 years ago across 10 different countries, surveyed 10,000 young people, and nearly 60% of them were worried or extremely worried about climate change. No real surprise given the situation we're living in, and the little word cloud that I've added there is just taken from some surveys that I've been doing in the schools that I'm working with. When you ask young people what's one word they would use to describe how they feel about climate change, this is the kind of thing that comes back. So this is a big deal, and climate anxiety is something that is set to keep increasing. What can we do? And I think the thing that I'm seeing is working very effectively in the schools that I work with is giving young people the opportunity to turn their climate anxiety into climate action. And also picking up on some of the points that Yael was mentioning, really interesting. This at the moment we're running a campaign, one of the schools I'm working with, and we're getting a lot of kind of pushback, especially from some of the teachers. Doing at the moment is preparing like Q&A, like how do we handle the most curly questions that students and the staff can throw at us, the people that really don't believe that these things are an issue. How do we open that dialogue with those people and give them the opportunity to air their views and explore that? Because we're, as Yael rightly pointed out, we need to bring other people with us, not constantly be working with people who are already convinced about this stuff and taking action. But this is a great opportunity for young people to take leadership within their school environments, to organise themselves, to focus on the issues that they care most about, and that is the best way, in my experience, for young people to reduce that anxiety that they have around climate issues. The schools that I'm working with are focused on all sorts of different topics: waste, energy reduction, sustainable eating, transport, water, etc. But where do we start? And obviously, I could spend all afternoon talking on this, but we've got like 5 minutes. So I just wanted to highlight that I've been working with UNFCCC's Climate Neutral Now programme, which is, I've included the link there, really interesting way that schools can get started in this space by actually understanding their carbon footprint, okay? So really, this is a way for that they can start by measuring, okay, what are their carbon emissions that are coming from energy use, waste, food, transport, etc. Gathering the data on those emissions, including it in a carbon footprint calculator. And this programme is aimed at all sorts of different organisations, but Climate Neutral Now have developed a calculator specifically for schools, which is a simplified version. What does this mean? It means that young people have the chance to start to understand where are the emissions really coming from and where can they focus their efforts. Because if you ask young people and you ask teachers, what environmental issues they most care about, you'll get hundreds of different answers, and then, you know, really trying to direct action and have a meaningful impact can be quite challenging in the complex context of a school environment. So really with having this sense of, okay, well, where are the biggest chunk of emissions coming from? Right, and then what kind of campaigns can we plan that specifically focus on that? So it might be energy reduction, or it might be focusing on food waste or transport. Any of those issues, students can then organise themselves. So one of the model that we work to is like thinking as eco plan about how we're going to take action on them. So like really working together, and perhaps older students leading and teaching the younger students. We're doing that a lot in the schools that I'm working with. Take that action, involve, but right across the school community. And it's absolutely critical to have leadership support in these aspects. Schools where I have the school directors who are 100% behind it, or where it's working the best, probably no surprise there. And also the operations team. So, you know, the people that are maintaining the school buildings and have, you know, the electricity invoices and all that stuff, they're really critical to involve. And then really doing this in a circular way. So starting one year, deciding we're going to focus on this particular issue, taking action and measuring the impact of that, and then planning again according to how we've got on. And I think the thing to bear in mind there is, you know, anybody who's interested in creating systemic change, and that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about, you know, doing it Nico Day. We're talking about transforming the way that a school community works, and how the habits that young people and their teachers are growing up with, so that when they go out into the world, and let's face it, the future job market is going to look very, very different. There's going to be much greater demand for green jobs as governments try to reach their net zero pledges that they're making. So young people really need to be prepared for, in a practical way, for what that actually means in the future. So giving them the chance to take leadership, practical action, and understand how a microcosm of the world, which after all schools are, works, can be extremely meaningful. So thanks ever so much for having me take part in this really fascinating forum. Really interested to hear the inputs from everybody in so many diverse parts of the world. I'm here in Madrid in Spain this afternoon, and thank you very much indeed. Delighted to hear anybody's questions or queries about the way I'm working.
Thank you, Claire, for your wonderful presentation on the amazing work you're doing in schools, and especially to talk about climate anxiety. I think it's fundamental to address this issue and educate people on it. I will ask now Kobe to display the speech of Mrs. Garza Macho, if it's possible, please.
"25 years ago, an African institution, a cohort, was established to contribute to resolving Africa's conflicts so as to create the conditions for human security, economic prosperity, and social cohesion. Today, after working on almost all of the Africa's protracted conflicts, we know that working towards peace alone will not deliver this. Peace, together with governance and development, is the only approach that can ensure stability. Therefore, in July of this year, the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, and Accord launched a new initiative called Global Peace to take Accord's experience from Africa and the Global South and extend our solidarity across the world. Global Peace will make a modest contribution in transforming how nations drive development and stability. It will promote an ecosystem of innovators, influencers, investors, and implementers to generate innovative solutions to challenges of our time. This civil society initiative will complement the efforts of governments and multilateral agencies and strengthen multilateralism.
Thank you, Kobla. And it is now time to introduce the second round of speakers. Our next guest is from Pakistan, is Aray Nazir, Director Coordinator, Global Strategic Institute for Sustainable Development, a nonprofit global policy think tank. We have the pleasure of having you here. Please, the floor is yours. Ready?
We
We cannot hear you. No, we still cannot.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So before getting started, I would really like to thank the Global Peace for giving me such an amazing opportunity to be here and speak in front of such an honored and august audience at the annual New Year Education Forum. Thank you so much. I'm highly obliged. So as we talk about education, we're now standing at the crossroad of rapidly changing world, which is why it is imperative that we consider the future of education and the impact it will have on the future generations. With technology advancing at an unprecedented pace and the global economy going rapid transformation, it is more important than ever that we ensure that education remains relevant, accessible, and inclusive. The right to education is a fundamental human right, which is not only recognized by the United Nations, but is also celebrated worldwide as the International Day of Education on 24th of January every year. This day serves us as a reminder of the importance of providing individuals with the access of quality education, which has the ultimate power to break the cycle of poverty, promote peace, and achieve gender equality. In today's world, the access to information and resources is no longer limited to geography or socioeconomic status. Technology has enabled us to connect with people and ideas from all over the world and has given rise to new opportunities for learning as well as for the personal growth. However, with this new landscapes comes new challenges, of course. But how do we ensure that all the students or the young people have the access to technology and resources that they need to succeed? And also, how do we prepare them for the careers that may not yet exist? These are some important questions that we must address if we hope to create a better future for all. To that end, it is crucial that we seek solutions today that will shape the future of education. We must invest in technology, resources that can be accessed by all the learners, regardless of their circumstances. Furthermore, we need to prioritize diversity and inclusion in our educational systems, making sure that all the voices are heard and that all individuals have the chance to succeed. We must also consider the skills and knowledge that students will need to thrive in an ever-changing world. The rapid pace of technological change means that traditional models of education are no longer sufficient, and students are needed to be equipped with critical thinking, problem solving, and creative skills that will allow them to adapt to the new challenges and opportunities. Education is a key driver in promoting sustainability and creating more sustainable future for all. Through education, the individuals or the students, they can gain a better understanding of the complex environmental, social, and economic challenges that our world face, and they can develop the skills and knowledge that is necessary to address these challenges. So, by raising awareness and promoting sustainable practices, education can help shift the attitudes and behaviors towards more sustainable ways of living and working as well. Education can also build help partnerships and networks between the individuals, organizations, and even communities that can drive change at local and even global level as well. And ultimately, an educated people and informed population is essential in driving the policy changes that will therefore create a sustainable future for all. In conclusion, I believe that education, the future of education is in our hands. Let us take the challenge and shape it into something that is inclusive, equitable, and innovative. And by doing so, we will be equipping the future generations with the tools that they need to build a better world. Thank you so much.
Thank you for addressing the importance of digitalizations in education system. We certainly need to invest in technology so that education can drive change and build stronger new generation of experts. I'm delighted to announce our next speaker from Mexico, Stephanie Razo Azamar, Country Manager for Cambridge International Education. It is for me for here human motivation values and that I give her the floor to her.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about this topic that I think everyone here today is really concerned. So, well, all of us today have heard the motto, education is the key to personal development and the future of societies. We have been told that it allows the creation of new opportunities and helps reduce inequalities. But what if I told you today that this is not exactly right? The word education or the act of educating is not as simple. If we want to build a truly informed and tolerant society, we should start with teaching our kids, youth, adults, and anyone who is willing to listen and learn. But where to start, when to start, and more importantly, teach what? So the answer to the first question is everywhere. As to when is now, and what to teach. This is where it gets a little bit trickier. So as a young professional and an education specialist, I've had a chance to talk with students, teachers, staff, and academics alike. And when it comes to the time to determine how education should look like in order to enhance equality, the answer is always to teaching values. All of this via human rights. So by teaching kids and people in general about what are human rights and which ones we're all entitled, it gives them the tools to start questioning the world, our current status quo, the one that we want to change right now. So we should teach them about the rights so that they can ask for them or demand them in any case. Through this, let's allow them the opportunity to dream, to move, to create, to find happiness, to find peace. Many of us today are privileged to know about our rights and to have the way to speak for ourselves. But I believe it is also time to speak for others and to start thinking as a community. Education is powerful, yes, but it can also represent a huge discriminator. Nowadays, you need a degree to access many of the top jobs. And if you are a girl or indigenous, the door gets smaller every time. We should start thinking about education as a tool and not a divider. Thousands of girls all over the world are denied education. And please tell me, how can we achieve peace if there is people who do not know about it or have never actually had it? How to teach something that they do not know, but also how to achieve something if we do not let them learn about it? Education is a tool, yes, but it is not enough. And education for what? We need inclusive and equitable quality education. Only like this, we can send the right message and build up the values to fight inequalities and accelerate sustainability in our world. Kate Beckett and Richard Wilkinson, that are two scholars that have dedicated their life to study the story behind inequality, have found out that inequality not only reduces labor opportunities or detriments health, but it also has a negative effect on happiness. In this matter, education can also be a way to reach out happiness and to get access to new opportunities. To conclude, without a doubt, there are multiple cases where we find that education has helped people to overcome poverty, but also studies have shown that the most educated people can also be the most intolerant and violate human rights. And by educated, I mean that they have gone to the most prestigious universities and obtained numerous diplomas and certificates. This only shows that education can only do too much if we do not settle down goals for it. So the next time we talk about education and how it can ensure peace, let's also talk about the type of education that can create this peace. The goal should not only be to ensure everyone's access to education, but also to ensure that such education is done within the guiding principles of human rights, respect for others people and the nature, as well as to create a sense of community. It is now time we understand that we are all in this together and that we can achieve only like that real peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And it is certain that the time to act, which is now, and we have to teach values, and we can all recognize the human motivational values that you share with us today. So thank you again. Now I will give the floor to Ana Aguilera from Spain, community-driven edu person whose experience focused on increasing autonomy of teachers and students through quality programs. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I would like to continue with a theme that, thank you, Julia, for presenting, that is autonomy and choice. So the future of education, as we have been talking a lot, it really calls us to grow creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And this is in order to prepare all generations, similar to what Stephanie just brought up, to face the vulnerable and unpredictable challenges of the world. To get there, we must grow a student's autonomy from a very early age. So although variables like local policies and family dynamics also play a big role on autonomy, our education systems are a key factor to the everlasting change. And this is through shaping competent and also skillful lifelong learners. So today I bring you some examples of autonomy in education at different levels, as well as some core valuables to consider when we're trying to implement these big concepts. So first I want to talk to you about what is autonomy. So autonomy is the ability to make choices, but understanding the implications that they have, not only for yourself, but for the community. And this is in accordance to your values, your desires, your preferences, and the opportunities that you're given. Autonomy brings together our ability to be reflective, to understand our place in the world, and also to take action with no coercion or fear. And we cannot talk about autonomy, obviously, without talking about choice. So the choice is an individual's capacity to make a selection among options that can be distinguished or discriminated also based on the same things: values, preferences, and desires. So choice also connects to competencies such as exercising control, managing risks, thinking critically, and resilience in the learning processes, which are all things part of the global agenda for education. Traditional education systems, as we know them, with top-down approaches, rigid curriculums, or just teaching to the test mindset, even if they're going more for equality, in reality, they're very limited in their capacity to grow the autonomy of an individual. Thus, we need to take a closer look at the systems, the stakeholders, and activities. I want you to imagine it as like three circles or like a Venn diagram, right? That they're all united. And my initial proposal for you will be to consider 3 questions. And following Jael's initiative, I'm just going to tell you the first question, and I'm going to allow you to think about it for like 10 seconds. And the first question is, what is the role of a teacher? And whatever your answer was, what if a teacher could be that and much more? Or what if a teacher was not that at all? What will that say about the education system? The same, what is the role of a student? And whatever answer came to your mind, the same, what if a student could be way more if they were autonomous? And what if they were also nothing like what your answer was? Other 2 or 3 questions that I want to bring to you that are related to this Venn diagram of systems, stakeholder, and activities is, how do the activities that you offer, similar to what Stephanie was just bringing up, in your context, focus on engaging learning opportunities that grow skills and competencies, and not just knowledge acquisition? Also, which of the stakeholders in your community can you include in your practice to grow the autonomy and choice? And after you have all of that, then what systems do you need in order to make that vision happen? Which, as our proponent from Pakistan just spoke, technology is the key factor of that. But technology is mainly just a tool after you have a clear vision. So let me give you some examples. At a personal level, like an individual, the answer to these questions could look like an activity done by Learn Life schools in Barcelona, Spain. They encourage students to create a rite of passage experience at the end of important life cycles. In this activity, each student is asked to reflect on areas of growth that they are ready to face, and they also source their community for the expertise to create meaningful experiences for them. Some examples of the themes that some of these students have chosen is, for example, a 12-year-old facing their fear of commuting through the city by themselves for the first time, or an 18-year-old who created music tracks to reflect on her family history and the effects on her self-esteem of that history, or a 15-year-old first open steps to explore their sexual identity. In this case, the students have the autonomy on selecting the themes important to them, but also kickstarting the process when they feel that they're ready, and also choosing who accompanies them through the experience. Now let's see at an institutional level. So as an institution, that could be in a school, is that there are more and more universities that now are providing options to their students on how they would like to be assessed or evaluated. The most common type of evaluation tends to be a rubric. To push it even more to the side of autonomy, there are some universities that are co-creating these rubrics with the students for each core, either in the beginning of the course or even for each activity of this course. So this process, although initially can take a big shift of the culture of assessment and autonomy, in reality, just that activity itself is an exercise of autonomy for the teachers and students. This also eliminates the sole focus that the final output is the way that we assess learning. And just to give you some examples, you can look into Boston University in the USA, as well as the University of Edinburgh in the UK. Now at a country level, in terms of autonomy, we can see the example of Italy. They currently have a large investment plan to regenerate the schools around the country who are ready to transform their classrooms and how they look like, add tech laboratories with robotics, virtual reality, 3D printing, and other techs, and also who are committed to upskilling their teachers on these areas. The grant grows the autonomy of the school because they are the ones that select whether they want to participate in the national grant, and they also get to select which are the providers that they desire. Of course, these have been pre-cleared by the local government, but the offer is quite broad. Last example is an out of school, but in a more global example, is the Armenian-based company called Tumo. They support the creation of innovation laboratories for youth throughout cities and countries. It is free of charge. There are extracurricular activities that the students choose and create their own pathways as they interact with a tech-supported, but also through live workshops. The scalability of the system has been tested that now they can accommodate more than 20,000 students at the time, which is a very large number for a tech. From these examples, I just encourage you to focus on igniting change where you have control, either by expanding the choices, by recognizing the autonomy of those that you impact. Let it be people in the school, let it be organizations where you work for, and that instead of taking it at a speed that is not sustainable for your community, you actually have the mindset that this, in terms of growing autonomy and choice, is a marathon of the transformation of our system, and it's not a sprint just to make quick changes that look very good but are not actionable. I hope to have inspired you and ignited you with some questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anna, for the examples you brought to us, which are extremely helpful to better understand the educational system of today, and especially the system that we would love to have in the next years. It is now you were our last speaker, so I will kindly ask Mr. Kovla Azamani, the coordinator of Global Peace, to share with us his closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia, for that wonderful moderation. I think we are very exhausted. We've had a very wonderful conversation. There has been very wonderful contributions from all our speakers. They've shared a lot of insights into education, from the climate perspective to the policy perspective to the problems education is facing and the digitization moving to the future, and a range of speeches that our distinguished guests have made. We at Global Peace are very excited that our young, energetic leader from Croatia, Ante Petrovic, was able to put up this very wonderful program. We are very glad he did, and we encourage all global peace citizens across the world to take up an initiative from global peace and challenge yourself to develop it into an intervention that will help solve the problems of the world. And that's the reason why we created global peace. And so for today, if a young, an 18-year-old young boy from Croatia can put up such an event, then we can say there's hope and we can always find solutions to the problems. Like our colleague from Azerbaijan said, we are more connected than ever, but yet we are also more divided than ever. So it means we find ourselves amongst two forces. And so which side are we going to take? Are we going to take the connectivity for development, or are we going to take the division for underdevelopment? So we are global peace, obviously we take the connectivity for development. So the connection is what young Ante Petrovic has taken and was able to mobilize all these speakers and participants to come together to forge a very strong alliance and collaboration to solve educational problems of today. And so that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, as leaders who will be taking over the mantle in our various countries, multilateral organizations and world leadership, and also in the corporate world, we should have the technical know-how to manage these institutions and to bring hope and development to the poor, to our people, and to humanity. So today's program has been very, very exciting, and we are very glad to have all of you. And we look forward to sharing your insights and your speeches and your input with our global peace citizens, our partners and stakeholders, to see how best your input can contribute to the forward march of global development. Like the last time the founder said, we are looking forward to move into New York to join the Summit of the Future, and your contribution will be given to the Secretary General as part of Young People's Voices for Global Development. So I will now call on the distinguished founder, Dr. Vasugondin, to make some remarks before Julia, our good moderator, will bring this program to a successful end. Dr. Gondin, please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, no, I didn't expect to take the floor. I was just fascinated by all the discussions and the inputs that I was sitting and listening to. You are all just such an amazing inspiration for the future, that I can say that my generation would have been lucky to have been led by all of you. But you are unlucky to have been led by my generation. We have led you to a lot of disasters. So the world, I think, will be a better place, knowing that we have such talent and skill and social consciousness. This is the main thing. You all have a strong social consciousness. So thank you very much. Congratulations, Ante, Julia, Kovla, for a wonderful, wonderful workshop and webinar. And thank you to all the speakers. I was really, really fascinated by your inputs. Thank you so much. Take care.
Lady Julia, I'm sure before you do your closing remarks, some couple of people have raised their hands to make some comments. If you can, please give them the opportunity to also be heard. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Yes, I see Lucas having his hands raised. So please, Lucas.
Oh, okay. Yes, my name is Lucas Masawe. Actually, I'm a third-year student from University, and I'm pursuing my bachelor degree of pharmacy. And I was serious that we do not have an ambassador from our country. So I would like to know the procedures so that we could have the ambassadors from Tanzania. And I wish if I could be the ambassador of the Global Peace HQ from my country. Thank you so much.
Okay, Julia, I think I would have to take this. Thank you very much. Lucas from Tanzania. Lucas, we've not yet appointed ambassadors for global peace in any country at all. Currently, we are running globally with our global events. We will soon put up a call for application for people who are very much interested to lead some initiatives in their various countries. You can also put in a proposal if you want to do an event with us. We'll look at it if it meets our standard of program organization. We work with you, give you the guidance and the support to undertake such an event. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Miss Moimbura Brian, I'm sorry if I misspelled your name, but if you want, you can pose your question.
Thank you. Mine is a bit of a question. I don't know to which level do we say someone is educated, because I've seen us, our generation, especially here in Africa, we tend to compare education and I have a lot of examples they use as role models who have not gone so much in education, but are doing well, which tend to confuse them to, I heard Dr. Vasu talking about getting a better life or getting rich after getting educated compared to what he went through before. But here, young people is used, even the world-known people like Bill Gates, they will say he dropped out of school and he's a famous rich man. And even local people here in our countries. So how, to which level do we say someone educated? And how do we deal with both? Because it is affecting somehow. It is like self-defense that you see the buildings here in town, all these people are not educated. So how do we handle that? Thank you.
For your question, I don't know if there is someone from the panel who wants to answer this question.
I can give it a go. I think and it goes with the topic of autonomy. I think that it's important to understand what are the local expectations of what education, and especially upon graduation, will mean for that student and that family and that community. And as such, then you can make a distinction between educated and not educated. There are some challenges when making this kind of a statement, that in terms of what Stephanie also presented, there was the inequality, right? And also speaking about equality of opportunities can seem inappropriate, because there are people that if they would have had the chances and the opportunities and were given the choices, they would have potentially acquire different skills and life competencies. But the reality is that potentially systematically, that was not the case for them. So how can we create opportunities that are formal and often formal education too, that can really provide all individuals in a community at least a chance for them to exercise their autonomy, that if it is, and I don't want to sound greedy or diminish this, no, but if someone's goal for educating themselves is in order to gain economic achievements, becoming rich, having enough for their families and all, that's okay. That's an okay starting point, because our goal, especially as educators, is to get them into the classrooms, to get them into the institutions, to get them into the learning experiences, so that then they can have more and further opportunities. So even if that is their initial mindset, that doesn't mean that that's how the learning outcomes will be at the end. But it's a starting point that we also need to honor and to understand the expectations that they're coming with.
Thank you, Anna, for your answer. I will call for Mohammed Deberi for his question, if he has one.
Thank you. Can I speak French?
If you speak French, we can't translate because we don't have a translator here. If you
Yeah,
can, just do your best in English.
Okay, I speak in French.
Can you speak French?
Yeah, I don't speak in English very well.
Okay, I think to check on Alinichi, Brian, maybe he speaks French. Okay, you know what? You can send me an email of your question and then we'll answer you. Either way, you can still ask your question here. It will be recorded and we'll translate and send you the response. If that's okay with you. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
So go on and ask your question. Mahatma, please go ahead and ask your question in French.
Ah, ok, ok. Bon, bonsoir à tout le monde. Bon, j'apprécie vraiment l'initiative pour le Peace mondial. Bon, moi, je pensais qu'il y aura l'option française, quoi, parce que ici au Tchad, moi, je suis le coordinateur de l'action pour la protection des droits de l'enfant, APD, une organisation qui est dotée d'un statut consultatif au niveau de l'ECOSOC de l'ONU. Nous travaillons justement comme votre initiative sur la paix aussi. Mais j'ai voulu que, pourquoi vous n'avez pas, la question c'est quoi? Parce que tout ce que les panélistes ont dit, les intervenants ont dit, c'est très important. Nous voulons que tout le monde comprenne. On parle de la paix. Sans la paix, le monde n'ira loin, n'ira nulle part. C'est pourquoi on veut que tous ceux qui participent comprennent ce que les autres disent. C'est ça ma question. Dorénavant, je pense que nous allons participer dans toutes les activités de World Global Peace, mais il faut l'option française. La langue est très importante. Oui, merci.
Yes, you're right. For those who didn't understand what he said, is just making remarks, thanking all of you for what you said and recalling the importance of adding also a translation in French and maybe also in other languages so that it can be more inclusive for those people who cannot speak English. And I will call for our last question to Linitwe Brian. I'm sorry for misspelling the name. Linitwe, Brian?
I think it's not ready, so we can proceed to a closure.
Okay. Yes, so I will ask our coordinator, Ante, for his closing remarks.
Wow, this has been amazing. My first time being a coordinator of an online event, looking for speakers, communicating with them through email, through WhatsApp, and trying to adjust everything was really sometimes hard, but I managed it, and on the end it's good. I'm really satisfied and it went great. Thank you very much to all of you here today, to audience. Special thanks to Julia, Kabla, Rosmel, and Dr. Vasum for giving me an opportunity to be part of Global Peace and learn leadership with just being 18 years old. That's not something that people usually give a chance to us young people, because they think that we're just finding ourselves and that we're not sure and that we're gonna mess up something. But even if we mess up, you know, at least we tried. I hope I didn't. A big thanks to all speakers. You have done an amazing job today. We have been listening about different opinions about education, from mental health in education, talking about mental health, anxiety, and gender inequality, climate change in education as well, and how we can make it better. Then we also heard about difference in education in Africa, in Europe, in Canada. There are differences, and that's not a good thing. And something that I can say from a perspective of an 18 years old student, some of my peers in my country, in my city right now, don't really understand how lucky we are and how lucky we can be to have this opportunity to have a free education and to educate ourselves in schools, also socialize. That's something that we get for free, but many of my friends and peers don't really understand that opportunity. I would like to close this speaker's block in this event by reading one more quote, as I read on the start. This quote is for Mahatma Gandhi, and it is like this: live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. The great thing about learning is that you never have to stop. We never have to stop learning. There is no limit as to the amount of knowledge you can obtain. So rip a page from Gandhi's book and keep on learning while you're living. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ante, for your closing remarks. I will now ask Kobla to show us the last musical performance of this annual event. Thank you very much. I want to thank all of you for attending, and also Global Peace for inviting me and asking me to moderate the annual education forum. Advocating for education equality is one of the top priorities of my mandate as Italian youth delegate, and having the possibility of hearing your inspiring speeches improved, of course, my knowledge. Thank you again for attending. Thank you, Ante, for coordinating and organizing this event. Thank you, Kobla, and thank you, Dr. Basu, for having me and also for your inspiring words. Thank you again, and don't forget to follow Global Peace in all the social media channels, and also to be notified of the next events that Global Peace is organizing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much.